Most law students are not failing because they are stupid. They're failing because they panic and because they approach exam questions badly. And honestly, the painful thing about law school is that sometimes you can actually know the work, but by the way you answer the questions, that destroys your marks completely. You walk out of the exam room, thinking, no, man, I studied. But then the marks come like super bad, and now you're traumatized. So in this video, I want to teach you exactly how to approach and answer law exam questions properly. Not academically, not in a robotic lecture way. I want to explain this practically, student to student, because I know exactly how stressful law exams can become, right? And trust me, I know what markers actually look for because I worked as a marker for almost 2 years during my undergrad law school. So I've seen the difference between scripts that score high marks and scripts that completely collapse even when students knew the work. And sometimes the difference is not intelligence, the difference is technique, right? So let's start this from the top. I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Tabang. I recently completed my LLB and I'm currently doing my LLM in environmental law at the University of Cape Town. One thing I have learned very early in law school is that law exams are not memory competitions. They are strategy competitions, right? The students who usually perform well are not always the smartest students in the room. They are often just the students who understand what the examiner actually is looking for, right? And that's exactly what I want to help you with today. So now let's start from the first mistake that law students make, right? They treat they treat an exam like a race, right? Look, guys, you need to calm down, like seriously. The moment you panic emotionally, your brain stops functioning. So if you open the paper and your heart starts racing, right? Suddenly you can't remember anything. And now you start writing nonsense out of fear, right? So that is how students sabotage themselves. One of the best things you can do in a law exam is to at least spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes just reading through the paper properly and not answering it, just reading. Check all the pages, check if all the pages are there, right? Make sure that you actually have the correct paper because sometimes they mix students in one exam hall that write different things, or sometimes a wrong paper just sits there, you know. Just make sure that you have the correct paper, the date, everything is correct, right? You read through the instructions carefully. You'd honestly be surprised, like how many students panic before they even understand what's going on. While reading the paper, start identifying your strong questions and your weak questions, right? This strategy genuinely helped me throughout first year until final year, right? Now, next to each question, you must next to each question, you must like maybe write one if you know the answer very well, right? And then you write two in front of a question that you think that okay, I sort of know this, right? And then three, if you're completely fighting for your life, like if you have no idea on what that is, right? And then start with the questions that you know best. Now, some students think, no, I should answer in order. You are not getting marks for being obedient, right? You can even start with question 5 and then go to question 3 and then go to question 1, and then you understand you don't have to follow that that particular structure, right? You are getting marks for your performance, not for obedience. So if you answer your strong question first, your confidence will grow, right? But if the first question destroys you emotionally, the entire paper starts collapsing mentally, right? Another important thing, you must allocate your time properly. Guys, if a question is worth 10 marks, please don't write over 40 minutes like you're submitting a master's dissertation. A lot of law students overcook answers. A good guideline is usually around 1 minute per mark, unless your lecturer says otherwise. So now, let me tell you something that changed the way I approached law school. So, law exams are not memory tests. I need you to understand that properly, especially for the beginners, like maybe the first years, the second years. It's not a memory test. Your lecturer is not sitting there asking, can this student repeat the textbook word for word? No. The examiner wants to know, can this student think like a lawyer? And that changes everything, because once you understand that, you stop trying to memorize the entire textbook emotionally, right? And you start focusing on the structure, the legal reasoning, the application, right? The analysis. That is why two students can study the same notes, but the other one will get like 72% and the other one will get like 48%, right? One student is writing strategically and the other one is panic writing. So now, um, trust me, as somebody who has marked scripts before, markers can immediately see when a student understands how to structure the answer. The biggest area where students lose marks is problem questions, right? So the place where law students lose like composure completely. But honestly, problem questions are not as scary as as they seem, right? Problem question is basically like legal storytelling. That's all it is. You are being given the facts, and your job is to act like a lawyer. You must figure out what happened, who did what the legal issue is, and how the law applies, right? So instead of panicking, think of yourself as a legal detective, right? And this is where structure becomes your friend. One of the best methods you can use, in your undergrad is the idea method that I came up with that, right? To sort of help me. So I would write idea down, I for identify, D for define, E for explain, and A for apply, right? So for me, that structure worked for me. Yes, you can use IRAC, FIRAC, IPEC. I'm gonna do a video on that too. But this method sort of worked for me, right? So um, if you are lost in an exam, this structure can generally save you. So let's sort of break it down a little bit. So on your I, right, you identify the legal issue. So what is this question actually asking about? Is it negligence? Is it contract? Is it delict? Is it administrative action? Is it murder? Is it capacity? Is it constitutional law? All sorts of things, right? You identify what the issue is. You must identify the issue before you start emotionally dumping notes on your page, right? Because one of the biggest mistakes students make is writing everything they memorized, even when it's not relevant. They'll say, I'll just leave everything there. Markers will they sort of get upset, right? Or they get annoyed, like, why are you dumping, the whole thing on me, And trust me, markers notice that immediately, right? And then step number two, you define the concept. This is where you show the examiner that you know the legal principle, right? If you've identified, okay, this is a Nascaturas fiction, then you define what that is. This is murder, then you define what murder is, right? You define that legal principle. So the definitions matter because they create a foundation for your answer, right? But please don't define something and then disappear and then you stop there, right? You must continue, right? So step number 3, you explain the legal rules that apply, right? Explain the legal rules clearly and concisely. You use the principles, you use the requirements, the sections, the case law, but avoid irrelevant storytelling. So there are no marks for writing beautiful paragraphs that don't answer the question. And this is something that students misunderstand badly. Length does not always equals to quality, right? So myself as a marker, I saw students write like 4 or 5 pages saying absolutely nothing. And then another student writes one structured, focused answer and gets significantly higher marks. Why? Because markers are looking for relevance, structure, and application. And as a marker, they give you the memo and then you get like keywords. So sometimes you don't even go through the entire paragraph. You just look for certain keywords that they would have given you as a marker. You see that, okay, all these keywords are there, and then this one gets full marks. So if you write like a long paragraph that doesn't have substance in it, you'll still lose marks, right? And now we get to the most important part, right? Which is the application. This is where the real marks usually are, guys. Lecturers don't care that you memorize the textbook. They want to see whether you can use the law. So let's use like a quick example. Like imagine the question says, Sipho takes someone's phone without permission and sells it, right? A weak student will just define theft and just move on. And a strong student will apply the law. So instead of stopping at the definition, you say, Sipho intentionally took the property belonging to another person without consent and intending to permanently deprive that person, like the owner of it, right? So that's application. You're connecting the legal principles directly to the facts, right? And honestly, that is what separates like an average answer from strong answers. Now, let me quickly tell you the biggest mistake students make in the law exams, right? Number one, not answering the actual question. Guys, please read directive words carefully. This is where the difference between discuss, explain, compare, critically evaluate, and advise. If the question says critically discuss and you only define, you are already losing marks. Number two, no structure. Your answer cannot look like one giant emotional paragraph written during a natural disaster, right? You must use headings, you must use paragraphs, you must be clear, right? And number three, students forget to conclude. Don't just stop randomly after application. Conclude your answer. Even if you are unsure, say it is likely that ABC, or the court may conclude that ABC. That is still far better than ending your answer mid-crash. Ne? And now let's talk honestly for a second. Sometimes you open the exam paper and suddenly you forget everything that you studied. Your brain freezes, your confidence disappears. You start questioning your entire degree. Ne? So that feeling is normal. It's very, very normal. But here's what you do. You stop, you breathe, and then you start with what you know, right? So let's say, for example, you can see that I can be able to define concepts. You can start by defining the concepts, identifying the issue, write the principles that you remember. You can also apply logically as well, right? A structured partial answer will almost always score better than a blank page. Never, ever, ever submit a blank page. And honestly, sometimes the difference between a 50 and a 70 is not intelligence, it's structure, it's confidence, and it's technique, right? Law school is already difficult enough. Don't lose marks because of poor exam approach. You learn the structure, you learn application, and learn how markers think, right? And trust me, that changes everything. Yeah. So if this video helped you, make sure that you subscribe, because I'm also going to be doing another video on FireRack. and another one on how to answer problem questions properly, how to read cases faster, and generally how to survive law school without losing your mind. Trust me, guys, we are surviving this degree together. Thank you so much, and don't forget to join the membership if you want to get the member exclusive videos. Thank you.